going back again with puzzles, Benjamin. I was doing the arena, but I'm pretty far ahead, so I'm not worried about them catching up. So I was just doing some puzzles with you guys again. I'm sorry about the small break. I just wanted to make sure that they didn't really catch up. So I was kind of focused more on games for that reason. But I'm not worried about that right now. So I'm gonna go back and do some more puzzles with you guys and do what I can explain and talk about pretty much what I'm doing and why, so you guys can get better at the puzzles. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna share this to my group real quick. hopefully, hopefully a few people come online. So, and I'll get started very soon. 1 second. Oh, hello. All right, I'm on. I'm ready now. I can go ahead. All right, let's do captures, threats, and preparation of. All right, checks, capture, and threats. Well, there's a couple of checks here, but you know, this one, and but they don't. I mean, you can easily tell that they all can be captured by the rooks. And this one here should be the answer. He'll move back, and that'll be checkmate. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. Um, checks, captures, and threats. Well, I don't see an actual check immediately. The king's tucked away in the corner. You have, all right, captures. Yeah, there's no check right now. I can, you can just take this, I take that. Um, this isn't check because the pawn's in the way. So look for captures. I can capture the bishop, but then I'm not really too sure what we're doing after that. Um, yeah, I really honestly, I've never been confused on a puzzle of this, but this time I am. Oh, he's on my check as well. So if I block with a pawn, I'll obviously lose the bishop. So the answer would have to be capture. That was a little weird. Very weird. Yeah, it did. The puzzle did look pretty tough. It was really weird. For because you're in check and I didn't notice it immediately. Most puzzles that where you're in check at, I get a little confused at because I didn't notice it right away. Checks, captures, and threats. This right here is a check, and when the king was out the way, you get to take the bishop. And there you go. Checks, captures, and threats. This is a check. The only move he has to block is to go up and you just take it, and that'll be checkmate. All right, checks, captures, and threats. Call it check here, and these two rooks right here are the ones that can block, and then you just take them since they're not defended. and that'll be checkmate. And this is a good pattern to remember. When the king is in, when there's 2 pawns or 3 pawns in front of the king, and the king can't escape, always look for a back rank mate with a rook. And if you don't see one immediately, look at how to make one happen. That's like very common for puzzles, is a back rank checkmate, especially early on with Puzzle Rush. And in your own games, this would be very helpful to remember, because under 1,000 back rank checkmates happen a lot, very often, and a lot of times people don't realize it or see it. So, same thing. You got these people look for a back rank. I just talked about it. Check. King will be forced to move back. Check. The rook will take, and bam, here you go. The rook goes back, and that's a back rank checkmate. You will see this over and over again, and it's important to remember it. Checks, captures, and threats. There's a check right here, and I can take the queen. But I want to look for a checkmate, so that's a good move. That's the first thing I noticed. But if there's a checkmate, that would be better. And I played puzzles where I had good moves, and it counted as wrong because there was a better move. So just because you see a good move right away doesn't mean you should play it. So look for any way to do checkmate. First off, the rook is undefended. So if the rook would have to maybe move, or another piece have to move to attack and defend, which I don't see happening. This will be captured. This queen is basically trapped. He can't go anywhere because he just can't, and he can't move up because of the rook. So yeah, this is the only movement. So that's good. So the first move I seen was a correct move. I just wanted to make sure that I was not missing a checkmate. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. I can call a check, and he can take it, and I can take it. But it'll be a rook and 3 pawns versus a knight and a bishop and a pawn if I do that. And that's not looking very promising. It really isn't. For that reason, I don't think that's the answer. Now let's see. Different checks. This check, like I said, as a check first, that's not going to work. This right here actually is checkmate because the bishop is protecting it. So this was my first thought, but I see why it didn't work out, and it's a simple checkmate. There you go. Checks, captures, and threats. Now I can't go here yet right away because he'll take it, like the 3 pawns back rank. So how can I make that happen? Well, if I move the pawn up, I'm not sure what he would do, but then I can call a check and make a queen. If he doesn't defend against the back rank mate, and let's say he takes the pawn, I mean, if I go down one and let's say he captures the pawn, that will be checkmate. So there's a good chance he'll be moving one of these pawns up, but then he'll be losing the rook. So yeah, some of them are pretty hard. It's important to look at different options, though. That's perfectly fine. And he prevented checkmate, but he lost his rook. Checks, captures, and threats. Yeah, and I don't think anyone's really dumb. I remember when I barely did puzzles well. It's just honestly, it's just a lot of practice. A lot of a lot of pattern memories. Like this right here, for example, I just call a check. He can't go here because the bishop. This is completely taken over by the rook. He'll probably block with the rook at first and he take it, but then after that he would have to move over and that would be checkmate. And I remember this pattern with the bishop and the rook. So like if I didn't memorize that pattern, it would take me a long time to see it. So I don't think people are dumb. I think it's just practice, really. I used to not see stuff like this before. So it's kind of why I'm going over it. I wish I had someone to teach me how to do them. Let's checkmate. and I didn't. So, and I didn't really watch stuff like this on YouTube before, so I didn't know stuff like this existed. I literally just taught myself. So, and that would have been checkmate, but I'll capture. Checks, captures, and threats. This is a check right here, and if the king has like maybe two ways to move, this way or this way. Now my first thought was check, move over, check, take, and checkmate. And the reason I thought about that because the two pawns, and but it doesn't work because because he doesn't have to go over here. I mean, when I call it check, can he go here? No, he can't. Actually, he has to go there because the bishop. Okay. For a second there, I'm like, I noticed it, but I'm like, maybe it's not the move because he might go over here. But the bishop has that covered. So, yeah, it's very important to know where all your pieces are attacking in as well. And games are so much easier than puzzles because I move my pieces with intentions. So, like, I kind of know what it's covering usually. So, with puzzles, I didn't make these moves. So sometimes I might not notice something immediately. So same pattern, checkmate, because of back rank mate. So he can't move because these pawns. So I should have went like this. He can't move here because of the pawns. Yeah, that's the way to do it. All right. Checkmate. Checks, captures, and threats. Um, let's see here. Same pattern. You know, these two pawns, the king can't move. So a check first, right here, on F and F2, attacking the queen, the king. The king will move back. Just take. So yeah, this pattern comes up a lot in both games and puzzles. So it's very important to remember them. I'll say it every time. Very important to remember them. All right. So now if I call check and I take his rook, right? I don't care where the king goes. The king goes back. It's probably only a good move. Anywhere else would be a free rook. Yeah, if he goes here, it'd be free rook, and he can't move forward because the king. So this is the only good square for him. So that'll be a check. He'll move here. I will take the rook. He'll block, and then you can just make a queen, like, and that's game. So yeah, that's just game. He's not catching up. I should have counted it for you guys, but I can eyeball it pretty easily now without really paying much attention. But if you know how to do that, you can count. It's perfectly fine. There's also a rule of square as well. Check. Move back over. Same pattern. Back rank mate. That'd be a check, take, and checkmate. So same pattern. Check, check, and checkmate. Checks, captures, and threats. So let's see here. I don't like this too much. Let's say I do it with the rook. You just take the rook. Yeah, that's bad. If I take with the pawn though, I'll be threatening the knight, and he really can't capture because I can take with the rook. Threatening the queen and check, so he like move back and lose the queen, or take the rook and. I don't know. Try to make sure I don't get it wrong. Let's say I take, and let's say he moves the king. I can call it check. He'll move back. I think it is this capture here. It's just it doesn't seem very like I don't see like an exact continuation because different things can happen. Let's say I take. He can move the knight out the way. He can take it off the pawn. He can move the king over. And I don't think any of them are good. I think no matter what he does, it's gonna be bad for him. So let's go over it. If he moves the king over, I can just call check. And when he moves back, just promote to a queen, call check, and he would have to take it with one of his knights. I mean, I don't really see much that he can actually do. I'm gonna be winning material. A queen, knight, two minor pieces, two rooks. So he's up a minor piece. And if I do something like this, if I take out the queen, it would checkmate because he'd be checked by the queen. He can't take out the knight because the rook. Okay, so if he moved over, that'd be checkmate. And then if I take, let's say he doesn't move over, let's say he moves his knight out the way, I would be able to just take it. That'd be a free piece. And now be threatening checkmate in one. So, yeah, it looks like the answer. It does. I just don't like how it's not super clear. And if he does that, I'll just take it with the rook. So, which he did. Yeah, I just didn't like how so many different options. But in a real chess game, that's basically what it's like. That puzzle right there, because you kind of have a lot of options and you're not sure what your opponent's going to do. And you got to figure out, like, what's the best move that you can do. So that one looked a lot more like an actual like game puzzle to me. So this is a checkmate, and basically, when you call it check, he'll take it. You call it check, he can't block it. This is his queen and pawn is not connecting or communicating. So his king will move up, and he checkmate with a pawn. So that's what this puzzle was. It's a pawn checkmate. All right, checks, captures, and threats. First thing I notice is that I can call check this way. If he captures with the queen, you can just take with the queen, and that'd be basically horrible for white. You'd be attacking the square. So I don't think he'll take it with the queen. So this check here, the king would probably move out the way. Like I said, that would be horrible for him to take. So if he moves somewheres, he has this square, he has this square, this square. He's a lot of squares to move to. So basically, the thing is what do I do next? Oh, you can't go here. The 3 squares you can go. So now I have to figure out what would I do after that. What would I do after that? I'm starting to think this isn't the answer, but I'm going to have to calculate it. It's just a little confusing for me. So you can't go here, but you can go here. I got to think of a follow-up before I roll out this one. Let's say... 1 second, I have a drink. I mean, he has the bishop. Like, he can take the bishop. Oh, okay. If I call check, it doesn't really matter too much where he moves. Because after check, and he moves anywheres, I can just take the bishop. And if he takes back, I can take this pawn with check. With the king, with the queen or the rook. And it looks like the puzzle. I don't know how to calculate it fully, but that looks like the answer. In a real game, I will try to calculate it fully. So it's super important, obviously, to learn how to do that. The way you learn how to do that basically is, I guess I'll just go over it. Is be like, okay, if he goes here, which he can't go here. I mean, if he goes back here, and I take bishop, if he were to take the bishop, that would be checkmate, right? So you can't do that. You just basically get a free bishop, and he'll probably do something else, like blocking it, like moving a rook up or something. So you have a piece. And then if he came over here, and you take this, the same thing. You're threatening this pawn here. He can't really, if he's back here. I mean, if he's right on the square, he can't block this way. So he's pretty much in bad shape. If he goes here, it's the same thing. He has to move up to defend the pawn. So it looks like that's it. And I believe that's the answer to come here. Knight takes pawn. Yeah, it does. That's really hard, though. I mean, it may be like here, and then I call it check this way. But I'm not entirely sure if he'll take or not. But then, and then I gotta decide with the rook or the queen. Let's say the rook, for example, and this is blocking off. If I take it with the rook, he can move here or here. If I take it with the queen, he only can move two squares. And if he goes here, this is really bad. He had to move back. That'd be checkmate. And if he moved back, let's say over here, I think this check right here would force the queen to one of these two squares, and you get the rook. So you got the check with the queen, not the rook. For that reason, okay, it didn't show up fully, but you would have won the rook or checkmate. So okay, checks, captures, and threats. Right now, if I were to take this and he were to take back, this would be a check, but he can just escape. So that's not it. Now, if these three pawns were up front, that would have been the answer. That would have been back rank mate. Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm thinking about possibly moving the rook here, but after he moves back, I don't really know what the answer would be. It's not a check because we don't have checks. There's no immediate. The only capture was this one, but I don't see a follow up. I don't see like what does somebody do here. I mean, even if I double my rooks back here, even if I double them, and I try to move him over here, he's still escape. So it's not like that's the answer. I honestly don't like this one. I don't like this one at all. This one is really confusing for me. So it's not a check, which is the easiest puzzles that exist. Like, because you can calculate that like super easy. It's like a forcing move. Captures are also forcing moves, which I don't really see a way to go about that here. Um, And I don't want to guess. If I guess, I'm just gonna probably ruin the puzzle. Um, maybe it's rooks on a seventh. If I go here to B2, the queen would have to move back, and then the rook will go to C2. That's what I'll do in the game. And the reason why I want to do that in the game is so I can go over here and start taking his pawns. That's honestly what I want to do. Bam, move up. Bam. He has no defense. I mean, he could consider taking here, but then after I capture this, it becomes really bad for white. So I think that's the answer. Oh, okay. Well, he didn't want that to happen. So, all right. That works for us. Yeah, that was the reason why that was difficult to solve was because it wasn't like a tactical puzzle. That was like a chess principle with like the rooks on the seventh for second rank. So I rarely ever see a puzzle that involved like chess principles. Normally it's a tactic where you just gain a piece or checkmate someone. That one was yeah, a little different. Definitely not used to that. Okay, so for this one here, black to move. Checks, captures, and threats. Um, I don't see the only check that's possible is promoting to a knight, but he can just take it. So that's not the answer. Right now, he's threatening to take the pawn as well. I mean, you can block it and him do something else and then promote. So let's say if I block it, right? Well, you can call check. I would have to move over. I can't move here because this pawn. So let's say I go here and he's like check and I move over. And let's say he's like check. Now if this rook, because this knight is covering the square, even if I move over and he continues to try, I can eventually bring my king around. So I think this is the answer. I don't see how you can, even if he moves up one and then you make a queen, that would be with check. So I don't see a way around it for him. So I think this is the answer. Okay. You captured. And then you can make a queen. All right. You don't want to take the rook, obviously, because if you do, he'll just take it back. But you're in check. So yeah, you kind of have to. And you'll be winning though. Doesn't matter. For some reason I didn't notice that. You lose the queen right after. That was still pretty good though. Yeah, and the reason why, and the thing is that with puzzles is easier because you know that there's an answer. In a game, you have to calculate deeper and more because otherwise you can just blunder. Oh, this is a very simple checkmate. It's called check. This is all covered by the queen, so the king has nowhere to go. That's just basically it. Checks, captures, and threats. Wait to move. Now, I'm in check myself. If I go right here, I'll be blocking these three squares off of my king, and I'll be threatening checkmate in one. So this is threatening checkmate in one. He probably would just call it check and I take, and then he'll move down and try to prolong it. But that's basically checkmate. Yeah. Now I can call it check, him move, me take, him go down one. That's not too good. I had to call it check again, and then come back to block the queen. So we have enough time. Double check, but we have enough time for that. And go down one, check, move over, and stop. Yeah, okay. They should have let me finish that because if I didn't see that I can move back, I would lose the game because he'll make a queen. So they should have let me finish that. Well, first thing I noticed is that this check would normally win the queen, but in this situation, he would just take it. So that's definitely not the answer. Um, can I deflect it? I mean, can I go here? Let's see, I go here for some reason. Can I deflect it so I can win the queen? No, if I go here, does he have any checks, captures, or threats? Does he have any? And he can actually call check this way. And let's say if I were to try to move like up here, he would just call check. Yeah, this looks really bad for me. Queen mate. Yes. Yep, that is queen mate. I'm here looking at all this stuff. Thank you. Oh man. Um yeah. So there's a lot of stuff here going on and he was too focused on this. And yeah, this is a simple checkmate with the queen. All right. Thank you. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. Checks, captures, and threats. I don't see a check. Well, just a check right here. This bishop has these covered. This knight would have these two squares covered. But that's not everything. There's this small piece right here. And I think if I move my bishop out the way to call check, like if I move it to hit the rook, this would be a check right here. But he'd be able to take the rook with the pawn. So that's not it. Yeah, because if I go check and move over, and then me try to do this as a check, he would just take the rook. But can I take the pawn after that and be checkmate? Yeah, I think that's checkmate. Still is, yeah, still is checkmate. Check, move over, check. He captures. This knight has these two squares covered. This bishop has these covered. And when this knight comes in, it would have this covered. So that would be checkmate. It's a really weird setup, but it works. I don't know if I could remember this pattern, but with the bishop, knight, knight, bishop, knight, knight. I'm gonna try to remember that pattern, bishop, knight, knight. That actually was pretty nice. I never seen that before, but it would be pretty cool if I ever did it in one of my games. So, black to move, checks, captures, and threats. Black to move. All right, so this check is horrible. You just take it. That's the only check I see. Captures. I see this capture right here. And after that, I'll be threatening mate in one. That's what I'll be threatening if I did that. So I think it might be that. I think it might be knight takes f3. He can't move in because this pawn has this basically covered. The queen has all this covered. So when I go here, he may move his rook back to defend the king. Now I need a follow-up threat. Otherwise, there's no point in it. So let's say I do that and he moves over. What would I do after that? This is possible to try to hit this pawn for a check, but he can move back. And then another check. And he only had this square. I don't really see how to checkmate him like this. I really don't. But I don't see anything else that's possible. There's probably a mate somewhere. Take, block, um, threaten. I'm gonna go ahead with it. Oh, okay. Well, now he's threatening to take my queen. If I just take, he'll take back and he'll be winning. But if I take with my knight, I think that'll be the move. He can't take this way because that'll be that capture. So if I take with the knight, he would have to take the queen this way. And then I can come in and attack. So I think this is the answer. Oh, okay. He did the other move. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. This is a check. He can't move. These are covered by the queen. And it's still double covered because the bishop. He'd have to move back and they'd be checkmate. So check. Okay, well, he can block with the pawn, but that doesn't really matter. All right, checks, captures, and threats. This is a check. He can take it if he wants. If he takes with the bishop, I don't know. If he takes with the bishop, I guess I'll have check, and then I can take the queen, I guess. But he also can take with the pawn. This would be check. Yeah. Either which way, you get the queen. So, looks like it is. And this will take the queen. And then I can win the knight, and he can move over. So, yep. All right, this right here looks like this is the first thing I think of immediately. Because if we trade, then I can make an effort to win. Because I think I can block off his king. Sometimes this is a draw, sometimes this is a win, depending if you can block the king or not with your king. And I think in this case I can. I gotta be careful. If I move my pawn up and he moves over, and let's say my pawn up and he moves over, that'd be a draw. Because I can't, he can actually get into the corner and force the draw. So I have to make sure that his king can't do that because this is a side pawn, not a center pawn. And these are very easy for draws. Okay, and then after I moved there and he moved up one, all I had to do is move the pawn up and he would have came around and he wouldn't have made it in time because the king was right here and he wouldn't have been able to capture it. So, all right, checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. Checks, captures, and threats. This is a check. If he takes it, the queen can come here with a check. The king would have to move back, and that would be checkmate. The queen will be hitting the king. King has no squares to go, and he can't go here because of the pawn. So that's a rook sack. This is actually a very common checkmate pattern, by the way. It's important to remember the rook sack with the queen coming in. It happens a lot when this pawn's not on this file. Like if he eventually capture something, in this case, he probably captures up here. And this pawn is blocking it off. It could be anything. It could be his pawn blocking. It could be a knight right here, hitting these squares. It could be a bishop. It can be pretty much anything. Like a bishop over here on the square. It could be anything. So it's a really common pattern for checkmates in actual games. All right. So basically, if I take this queen, he will checkmate me right here. So it's the back rank mate against us, and we don't want that. Looks like a free queen, but it's not. It's a losing queen. So now, what to do? Well, if I take here, he'll just take back, And then if I take this, he will same problem. It will still be checkmate. So it's not taking the queen, and it is not taking the rook. They're both bad. They both will lead to checkmate against me. However, this check would force the king out the corner, and that would take the queen with check, and then I can eventually create space. If he were to move back to block, that would be checkmate. But if he were to move over to the side one, I can call it check, and he would have to move. And that'd be check. Actually, it's checkmate, actually. So, yeah. This is the answer. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's go. Yeah. Checks, capture, and threats are the most simple, easiest way to solve puzzles, and they're really important in games. If you do that in your games, you look at every move, and you're constantly trying to check that stuff out, you would find more checkmates, you would find more free pieces. It's really a simple way to do it. It's not going to get you to master chess, but it will get you to understand it better. And then after a while, you definitely would be after a while you definitely would start looking into more stuff to learn. So checks, captures, and threats. This is a check right here. Let's see what he can do. He can't move back here because the queen. He'll be forced to move up. So this would be a check, and he would be moving over here. This queen can come in and call it check. The king will have no squares. The bishop would have to move in. Not entirely sure if I can checkmate. That'd be check, move over, check. He would have a few options. One of these three squares. If he were to move here, this would be check then mate. If you move here, that would be check then mate. If you move here, queen going back would be check. Yeah, it's all checkmate no matter where he goes. So that's check. He'll be moving over here. That's check. Bishop. Check. Yeah. Okay. That's. And this is the check right here. And this right here. Okay. And then after that, it's checkmate after that. It didn't matter which square he went to. I guess that's why I was like mate in two no matter which one. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's go here. Let's do this. Let's do this. If I were to take the bishop, which is a check, and he were to take back, this bishop would have all these squares covered. Take, take, take. But he can move back here. And this right here will be checkmate because the bishop is protecting the rook, and the king can't go here because this bishop here, you already moved your queen out the way and the rook out the way. So that would be checkmate. So it's a queen sacrifice. And you see the bishop right here. That's why it's checkmate. So I'll cover it. Checks, captures, and threats. Let's see here. This is a check right here. Not too sure what he can do. I mean, if he were to move up, I can go here and call it check again with the queen. And if he were to move back, it wouldn't be mate because his queen is right here. His queen will be stopping it. So I'm not sure if that's the correct answer. Check, move back. I mean, I can do a rook, but if he moved back one, what can I do? I don't really see anything I can do after that, after this check. So I don't think this is it. It still might be it, but I want to look into a little bit more. Oh, that'd be checkmate. If he moves queen right there, that's right there with the queen. Oh no, he moved back here. I already figured that out. He can't. It won't work. All right. So now that we know that won't work, this checks doesn't work. A capture. This is a capture, but he'll just take back. Threats. This is a threat. It's blocked, so he can't do that. He can't take the rook, but he can take the bishop and then check. I mean, this is already covered. So it might be moving the pawn. It might be the answer. If I move the pawn up, the rook is protected by the bishop, so safe. The queen will come down, maybe take the bishop. And then this would be a check. He can take the pawn. Check. Move over one. Check. And take the queen. Yeah, I think he'll take the queen if that happened. I'm not sure. Let me see if there's anything else he can do. If I go up one, he can just take the queen right outright. That's not the answer either. Bishop check. What if I call check with the bishop? And he would take it. And then I call check with the rook. So I can win the queen. That looks like it's it. Nope. All right. I probably should have looked at it more. I thought it was the answer and it was real simple. All right. Check. Move over. Yeah, I'm getting close to the part where I start making mistakes, by the way. Normally, I usually get to 20 without making mistakes. I made it to 30. Yeah. I had a pretty good run. All right. So, excuse me. This is a check. Back. This is covered by the queen, so I can't call check with the rook. This is covered by the queen, so I can't call check with the queen. So after checking, he moves over one. What would the plan be? Oh, if I call check and he takes it, that would be checkmate. So we'll take the answer. Dude, I am not sure what's going on here. That was twice in a row. I mean, he is in check. He would have to go there. That'll be checkmate in 3. Unless there's a checkmate in 2, and I just didn't see the checkmate in 2. If the rook goes first, it's the same thing, though. I don't know. It looks like checkmate to 3 to me, unless there's a faster checkmate. All right. My queen's under attack. Checks, captures, threats. If I take, he takes. I take with a check. We just basically trade off pieces if I do that. I don't think this puzzle's just trading off pieces. Even though in a real game I might actually do that because I'll trade a piece and develop, but I don't want to get 3 wrong in a row. I mean, it's still good information for the first like 30 puzzles, but I don't really see actually anything else. I can move the queen somewheres. but I don't really see much of anything else after that. So I think this is the answer, even though I don't really, it's not very clear to me. Yeah, it's not very clear to me. At puzzle 30, it's 31, yeah, it's 30. I think it was queen d6. Queen d6 would be a check. Yeah, it could have been it. It could have been it. For sure. Yeah, I still convinced the last puzzle is a checkmate in 3. Unless they wanted me to put the rook check first and then queen takes, and it'll still be checkmate, just a different order. This right here looks like checkmate at 3 to me. Even if it's the rook move instead of the queen move. But yeah, I think the puzzle 30 was queen d6 to start. I'm thinking about taking here. Not. I'm not liking it too much, but I don't really see any other capture that really makes any sense. And I don't want to just move my queen out the way. Let's say I do move the queen out the way. Let's say I just take care of the queen, and he would take the queen, and then I would call it check, and then I'll capture. They both seem fine to me. So like, if I had the wrong order, I'm a little confused because this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and capture. Okay. All right, that wasn't too bad. That was all right. So, I felt feeling a little weird. It always feels weird when I start making mistakes, but I think I did pretty good. You guys can go over this and go back to the beginning if you wanted. Check capture threats. At least for the first 29, I did very well. But the last 3, I don't even know. I had to eventually make mistakes. I can't do this forever, so all right. Well, um, I'm gonna get going now, and you always can go back to the beginning if you like. So hopefully these are helpful for you and your games. All right. All right. Take care, like, subscribe, and show your friends. All right. Bye.